And it's 1 o'clock and time for the St. John Daily Word. I'm Pastor Ron Genaro, and I welcome you, and I have several announcements for you, and then a very brief devotional. We want to remind you that weekly services are at 7:45 and 9:30 a.m., with the 9:30 service live streamed. There is a weekly update email that goes out towards the latter part of the week, usually on Thursday or Friday. It tells you what's coming up in the next week. Please keep an eye on your inbox. Faith and Fitness resumes this Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the Fellowship Hall. Please, if you have any questions, call Paula Penzine, and her number is listed there. We also want to remind you that Joanne Springer's Celebration of Life service will be Tuesday, March 24th, and that will be a visitation at 11, and service will be at 12 noon. And that will be in person as well as live streamed. Bible study will not be meeting on March 24th because of the funeral services. I want to remind you that you should be keeping setting aside some money as part of a Lenten offering. One half will be donated to the Florida GMC, the other half donated to the local women's shelter. We ask that you would bring those in these coming Sundays and place that in an envelope and write Lenten offering and place it on the altar rail. The Rays game, we're going to be going Wednesday, April 22nd at 10 a.m. It is a 1:10 game, and they're going to be playing the Cincinnati Reds. It's $60 per ticket, all-inclusive. Please contact the church office to sign up. We have, as of right now, I believe we have 8 slots left, 8 tickets left. It might only be 6. I'm ordering the tickets on Tuesday morning, or I thought about Wednesday, but I think I'm going to be ordering them on Tuesday, tomorrow morning. The fellowship breakfast will be this Wednesday, March 20. Is March 25th? Yep, it's March 25th. 8 a.m. in the fellowship hall. Bacon, eggs, and hash browns. Look forward to seeing you there. The Easter egg hunt will be this Saturday, March 28th, 10 a.m. in the parking area and all of those things. Please contact Laura Todd. We need folks to volunteer and help us hide the eggs, put the eggs out, hide the eggs with the kids, do some games and registration and things like that. Hopefully you signed up for that. But also, we're going to have an Easter egg stuffing party. That's going to be Wednesday, March 25th, 5 p.m. in the Fellowship Hall. It usually doesn't take us very long, and we're going to order some pizza as well. So come be a part of that. Grief Share meets on Thursdays. They're back in the education building this week, and that's Thursday. And the registration is $20 for the book. They're about midway through, and you can start at any time and pick it up. We'll do it again in the fall. We also want to say thank you to all of the Treasure Trove volunteers. They just did a great job. They're going to have a meeting also on Wednesday, and that meeting is kind of a debrief, and that's Wednesday at 9 o'clock after the Fellowship Hall breakfast. We encourage everyone who participated and was there to attend that meeting as well. The wrap-up meeting, there it is. Parkway Food Ministry, always need food for them. Please bring that in. Non-perishables, peanut butter, canned goods, cereal. Last 2 weeks we asked for cereal, and that really helped out. I met somebody who's trying to make sure that the ministry continues on. You may recall that their founding leader, Reverend Dale Hollowell, passed away a few weeks ago. Easter lilies, you have until this Sunday or Monday, March 30th, to order your Easter lily. It's $10 per lily. Fill out the form, place it in the offering plate with your payment, or stop by the church office between now and Monday. Holy Week, we have a lot going on. Palm Sunday is this Sunday, March 29th. We have palms. We will do some extra special things. We have Maundy Thursday. Maundy Thursday will be April 2nd at 7 p.m. There will be a much shorter sermon. We're going to talk a little bit about communion, but what we're going to do is celebrate Holy Communion. And then we have something that I think is one of the most beautiful services, and that's incorporated often in Holy Thursday or Good Friday. It's called a Tenebrae service. Christmas Eve, we call that a service of light in some cases, and where we bring in more light because we celebrate the light of the world coming into the world, and that is Jesus. But on a Tenebrae service, it's the reverse. We start with light and we dim the light and we go down into darkness, because Good Friday is a dark time. Though it is called Good Friday, it is good for us, but not for Jesus, who will take upon himself the sins of the world. But on Easter Sunday, at our 7:45 and 9:30 a.m. service, we will have a great celebration. And we will have a brass group here coming and playing, and they will just do a great job. We have extra music, extra songs. And for you, we want you to know this. I will be preaching a message that I've done a couple of times before in other churches, and I'm doing it here. I've done it once here almost 20 years ago. The sermon is entitled, If This Cloth Could Speak, and I take 5 minutes for the sermon. 5 minutes. So we encourage you to come. Bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring your enemies, bring anyone you can think of to come and celebrate Easter Sunday morning at 7:45 and 9:30 a.m. here at St. John. Also, the Sunday after that, we will be, Pastor Dorman will be teaching a new Sunday school class called The Return of the Prodigal. It is a 4-week study. It begins on April 12th at 10:30 a.m. in the fellowship hall. There is a sign-up sheet because they're going to have goodies and snacks and things like that. Also, upcoming, Habitat for Humanity Golf for Homes at Sun and Lake Golf Club. April 18th, 8 a.m. The entry fee is $75 per player. If you can, work with me through that because we will sponsor holes for an additional price and cost. And so we'll do that together, and you can sign up for the team through the church, and you'll write the check to the church, and then we'll send all of the money over to them, and it'll be helpful that way. Trust me on that. So Habitat for Humanity Golf for Homes at Sun and Lake Golf Club. And then also we want you to know our devotional, and our devotional comes from 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 17 through 24. 1 Kings chapter 17, 17 through 24. And I'm going to give you some background. The prophet Elijah is staying with a widow and her son, and that's the setup. He's staying with the widow and her son. He's basically rented a room. There is this time of pestilence and a time of where it's not raining. There is a drought, and it is because Elijah has said, based on God telling him to say this, that it will not rain because Ahab the king is being punished, and he wants to get his hands on Elijah. He's hiding in this woman's house, and God is supplying their needs through Elijah's prayers. And then this happens. So 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 17 through 24. After this, the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, became ill. His illness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. She then said to Elijah, "What have you against me, O man of God? You have come to me to bring my sin to remembrance and to cause the death of my son." But he said to her, "Give me your son." He took him from her bosom, carried him up into the upper chamber, where he was lodging, and laid him on his own bed. He cried out to the Lord, "O Lord my God, have you brought calamity even upon the widow with whom I am staying by killing her son?" Then he stretched himself upon the child 3 times and cried out to the Lord, "O Lord my God, let this child's life come into him again." The Lord listened to the voice of Elijah. The life of the child came into him again, and he revived. Elijah took the child, brought him down from the upper chamber into the house, and gave him to his mother. Then Elijah said, "See, your son is alive." So the woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in your mouth is truth." Now, I have never had anything happen to me like this, but Elijah did all these miracles. Now, I have prayed for people, and they have been healed. I have seen that in almost 40 years of ministry. I have experienced that. I told a story on Sunday about a man who had a vision of his wife and Jesus talking to him, and his wife had died the year before, and it was very dramatic. He was in the hospital for something routine, and it didn't go well. He was on a cannula oxygen thing so that he was getting enough oxygen. And he saw Jesus in the corner, and he saw his wife told him, Jesus says it's not time for you yet. And Jesus says, call the nurse. She's got to put a new mask on you. That mask isn't working. That isn't working. He rang for the nurse. The nurse came, and he said, Jesus is here, and my wife is here. And she says, you got to change my mask. And at that point, the nurse had looked at his at the monitor and knew that his oxygen saturation level in his blood had really dropped precipitously low. And she said, Jesus is right. And she swapped and put a mask on him, and he revived. He said Jesus and his wife were there for a few more minutes, and then they faded away. But the wife had also said to him, Jesus says, it's not your time yet. And a few days later, after I'd seen him, I prayed with him, I talked with him, his family was with him, and he went home to be with Jesus. And it was very dramatic, and it left a deep, deep impression upon me as a young minister when that occurred. He was a good friend. But what this woman, this widow, who is in great need, because in the ancient world, if you were a widow, you had very limited opportunities to feed your family. Women couldn't inherit property. There were great restrictions on this. Her son dying, and he's young enough that he can be carried up. So we think he's not very old. And she's not maybe been a widow for very long. We don't know what her sin is, but she equates kind of this tit for tat, that this happened, so therefore this happened. It's a very formulaic. I did this wrong, so now God is punishing me. My grandmother used to talk that way. When her health was failing, she would say to me, I don't know what I did to offend God. And I'd say, Grandma, you didn't do anything to offend God. These are the natural results of some of the choices you made with some of the things that she said and did with her life. And I understood that, and she had smoked for many, many years, and she struggled with breathing issues and lung cancer and things like that, and and all of those things, or emphysema. So there are all those things that play out. But I do know this: in this story, in 1 Kings chapter 17, Elijah makes God real for this widow and for the son. He takes the child, he lays it on his own bed. That's important because by touching a dead body, Elijah had become ceremonially unclean. There was a whole rigmarole and a whole process one had to do in order of the purification rites to make yourself clean. And Elijah was a wanted man. He couldn't go and do those. But he takes that risk. He lays the child. He leans on him 3 different times, and he asks God, make him come back to life. Return life to this child. And he does. Now, I know that that's a very dramatic answer to prayer. I don't have dramatic answers like that in my life. I've had some pretty big answers to prayer in my life. But they don't equate to this of someone dying and I prayed and they came back to life. I've never done that. But Elijah does. He does. He does other miracles. And all of those point to this. And this is, I want to key back in to verse 24. Catherine, if you can put it up on the screen too, I'd appreciate that. So the woman said to Elijah, I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in your mouth is truth. I hope that you know that those around you who profess to know God and to know Christ are men and women of God, and that their words are that in their mouth is the word of truth. And that only comes by us not just professing the good news of the gospel, but living that out, so that others will know and see that God is at work in our hearts and in our lives and is available to you and to them and to everyone. I want to remind you this morning that God loves you, this church loves you, and I love you as your pastor. God bless you. Have a great day. We'll see you not on Tuesday because we have a funeral that will be live streamed, but I'll see you again on Thursday. God bless you. Bye now.